See, that's a football field there and a 747 Statue of Liberty. World Trades. These two tall towers of cash. That's $1.2 trillion. Go back to the tall towers, because this is our complete debt with everything. These two tall towers. See these? That's what we borrowed this year. Right there. Not going to fit it on a little truck. Not going to be able to put all that money in a Prius, are we? Mm-mm. We've already been downgraded, probably get downgraded again. That kind of sucks. There are unfunded liabilities, Medicare, Medicaid. There it is, right there. $100 bills, stacks, dwarfs the World Trade Centers. Empire State Building. Yep, that's it. Medicare, Medicaid. Sucks, huh? In total, the world is $40 trillion in debt. Other than Japan, nobody has near the debt we do. Here's the United States. That's us. You crazy kids. This is Japan. Oh, Germany, Italy, France, England, this country, Brazil, that country, this one, and them. This house of cards is not going to last. Let me go back to the New York Times. They say people are strangely relieved. New York Times says this, quote, most surprising, there is a pervasive sense of relief over the crisis that it is now upon them, as if a long, strange dream is at last over. Oh, no. No, it's not. No. Because, turn down the lights a little bit. Turn the lights down a little bit. I'm just going to, because it's Valentine's Day, I'm going to sing a little Carpenter song for you. We've only just begun. I don't know the rest of the words, but that's really, yeah, it's just, we've only just begun. As you will see in Greece, the people eating out of garbage cans, and 50% of the people who have not received a paycheck, the relief won't be long. Now, it's finally upon them, but now what do they do? How do they behave? I can tell you how people are pushing them. And they're pushing us to be that way too. Greece is on fire. People are digging through garbage cans for food. Half the population isn't collecting a paycheck. How does America survive if we keep heading down exactly the same road until we look just like Greece? We're accelerating. Well, every sign down the road says, hey, stop, turn the car around. We're accelerating. Here to discuss is one of my heroes from the EU, Daniel Hannan. He's a member of the European Parliament, joining us from Strasbourg, France. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Hi, Glenn. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you, sir. You English, you are so darn serious. It's hard on a Valentine's Day, broadcast to, because you're heating the screen up. Now, Daniel, you were just at CPAC, and you warned America, and I mean, I don't think the media over here even heard you, because they're surprised by what's happening in Greece. What's coming our way?
Well, I mean, the way I put it at CPAC is Greece is, and indeed the European Union, is heading over the edge of a cliff with a handful of us trying to jam on the brakes while there's still time. And as we tip over the edge, we look up in our rearview mirror and we see you guys accelerating to overtake us. You haven't got the excuse that you didn't see this coming. You've got the example of Greece and the other countries in front of you. This is what happens. You increase your production, you increase your consumption year after year without increasing your production. You bridge the difference with debt, and in the end, the money runs out. Your treasury is empty, your credit is exhausted, and around the world, governments, including yours and mine and those in the European Union, have responded to this crisis by doing more of what got us into it. More debt, more spending, increasing demand even more. I'm afraid I think there is going to be literally this total crash before they understand what the problem was.
People ask me this all the time, and I know the answer, or at least the one I believe. People say, well, that can't be true. Why would responsible people do this? I mean, the politicians, they need to have money and constituents and everything else. Why would somebody do this? Do you have a handle on that at all?
Upton Sinclair, your writer Upton Sinclair made the brilliant observation that it's very difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon his not understanding it. Right? What do governments do? They redistribute money from the taxpayer to the people lucky enough to be inside the system. The first instinct of any minister, but particularly a Eurocrat in a crisis, is to reach for his wallet, or rather to reach for your wallet. Or reaching for your wallet,
right.
Because if they're a Eurocrat, they don't pay tax. They're reaching for your wallet, right? But here's the additional problem that Greece has. Greece cannot begin to grow because it has an overvalued currency, because it has been sacrificed to the euro. Greece can't begin to export its way back to growth because the European Union has taken the decision to sacrifice Greece in order to keep the euro going. So, you know what? I've actually got some sympathy with those people out in the square in Greece protesting. They can see something that is very rarely mentioned in the media coverage. We talk about bailing out Greece or giving all this extra rescue money to Greece. They're not going to see any of it, or they're going to see very little of it. Out of every dollar given to the Greeks in the bailout, the Greeks actually only get to spend 19 cents. All the rest of it is going straight to the financial institutions that made the bad investment decisions in the first place. But the repayment is going to come from Greek taxpayers. So is it any wonder that they're protesting? They can see perfectly well what's going on, which is
Daniel,
that medium and small taxpayers are bailing out the very rich.
What's the answer? Make the case on the answer, because
from here...
Go ahead.
Well, from here there are no easy solutions because the debt is so large. But the least bad option, without question, is for Greece to decouple, default, devalue, price its way into the market, and begin to export its way back to growth.
But what do they export?
It'll be a long uphill climb, but it's a beginning.
What do they export?
Well, the two biggest sectors of the Greek economy are tourism and shipping, and both of those would benefit hugely from a competitive devaluation.
Okay. The United States is going to be in this situation as well. We have lost 30% of our manufacturing jobs in just the last few years. We're not making squat anymore. I mean, 10 years ago they were like, we're going to be the financial geniuses of the whole world. Well, that's not working out real well now, is it?
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, a naturally inventive people like yours, reduced by government regulation and by economic mistakes into this position of dependency on other people. And this massive external debt. I mean, 5 years from now, your interest payments to China are going to be bigger than the whole Chinese defense budget. I think there are things you can do to get out of this problem. It's a problem caused by policy errors, and it can be fixed by getting those policies right. Stop printing money. Stop treating low interest rates as the sole goal of economic policy, right? This is in defiance of every ancient philosophy, every monotheistic religion. How did we get to the stage where every politician prides himself on rewarding debt and punishing thrift? It's crazy. It's no way to run an economy. And in the long run, return to some kind of commodity-based currency so that you don't have governments with a monopoly on money able to debauch savers and punish people who've done the right thing in order to cover their own high spending.
Anybody listen to you over in Europe? I mean, you make so much sense to me. Does anybody even listen to you over there?
Well, there are people, yeah, I mean, of course, I like to think my constituents are listening to me. They're continuing to re-elect me. But in terms of the governments acting on what I'm saying, well, that's a whole different thing. Because like I was saying, governments spend money. To quote another great American writer, Mark Twain observed that when all you've got is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. When all you do is spend money, it looks like the problem to every solution.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it, Daniel. Talk to you again. As the economy crumbles in Greece, the U.S. seems to be heading down the same path. We are going to be in the same boat. My good friend David Buckner is here. He is an adjunct professor at Columbia University. What's the name of your company, too? Because you go
Bottom Line Training and Consulting.
Okay, so you consult companies all around the world. David, how many companies are leaving the United States now?
I've got 6 clients personally that I've spent the last 6 months in 17 different countries, all outside of the U.S. Everything that was being done domestic, we're outside of the U.S. right now, almost exclusively.
Where are they going?
Everywhere you would not think. They're going to Sweden. They're going to the Netherlands, Germany, Russia. I got back last week from Russia and Istanbul, both places.
Why?
You've identified something that's quite thoughtful, and that is that if you look at our debt, you know, we pale in comparison even to the countries that you think in Europe that are you know, under such stress. They're still viewing that as, first of all, diversifiable. You've got multiple places to go, and secondly, the U.S. is not the place to be. We don't do it, Glenn. We don't produce anything. We don't manufacture. Go back. The last time we really produced and manufactured anything was the .com era. We got into these clever little financial instruments that were cute for a while, but those were illusory. It was an idea. And it wasn't even an innovative idea. It was an illusory idea. We don't produce anything. We have resources available to us from Alaska all the way to Florida. We don't use that. And so we find ourselves we're not doing anything.
Can we? Do you think we're going to get to a point, because first of all, and I'm not asking you for, you know, an endorsement, but do you see a candidate out there that can actually turn things around, that gets it enough and has the spine?
Well, no. I don't see a politician. I see politicians who say, I got nothing to lose, and they'll say what is true. You've heard some things from Ron Paul that he states that are true. You've heard things from Gingrich that he says that are true. You've heard things from the president that he truly believes. I mean, you see these people that in their moments will give you clarity of what they see and what they believe, but it's usually when it's done or when they can expend it. You don't see the ones that are moving toward the destination that will be honest and saying, we have no money. We have no money. Your identification of all the trucks and everything else you've seen is a beautiful visual view of it, but it's real. We don't have the money. The first thing I'm working with executives all around the world, the first thing I tell them is, money in, money out, what's left over? It's profit, folks. If you don't have what's left over, you run debt. Now, you identify debt's not all bad if it's investment. Governments don't invest. Governments transfer. So the only way out of this, you were asking Daniel, I thought it was a great question, and the response to it he was thoughtful on, was the only way out of this is innovation. It is the only way in which we can do things.
They're crippling us on innovation.
We're crippling ourselves. We're first of all taking...
That's what I mean.
Yeah. They're crippling. If you're talking about administrative crippling, yep. Regulatory crippling, not economic crippling. We can get ourselves out of bad times. We're in a real bad spot in terms of debt. We could do it if we innovated, but we do a couple things to stop that. First of all, governments don't allow us to feel the pain. When we're suffering, we innovate. But what are they doing? No, it's all okay. And so they hide it with, you know, bailouts and funding and subsidies. That doesn't innovate. Innovation says, what do people really want? How do I create it? And then how do I maximize my competitive advantage? What's America's competitive advantage? We eat more than anyone. I mean consumption. We're sitting in a restaurant. We're going in, can I borrow money to buy your food? The restaurateur is, at some point in time, is going to say, I don't need to lend you money to buy my food simply because you consume more. I got other people now buying. And with India and China and Russia and Brazil, I'm going to Brazil in 2 weeks. I'm down there again for another week. Each of these countries are going, you know what? We know we have to produce to consume. Americans for the last 20 years have not had to produce to consume. We've borrowed to consume.
We are the ultimate trophy for everybody, society.
We are. And we're betting on the fact that our fat consumption will make them want to keep us alive. The day will come where China will gently say, I've got India to buy from me. I've got Brazil to buy from me. I've got Russia to buy from me. If you don't buy from me, it's okay, America.
China is just taking the ports.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, just taking the ports. And there's nobody to stop them.
No.
What stops China from doing that to us?
Well, if you go back into the 80s, we actually had China and Japan that were taking over. Many of the 6th Avenue buildings were being, That's not far from where we are. We hit a downtime there where they took it. They took it by virtue of the mortgage, acquisition as the banks. But we're not far from that. At some point in time, if China can't get and take our debt and transfer it for gold, or get our debt and transfer it to something else of value, intrinsic value, they're going to go after the only intrinsic value we have. Land. And it won't look as normal as we might think, where they're just taking over property and saying, haha, we got it. It's going to be that they're going to get rights to get oil. They're going to get rights to harvest. They're going to go to places where we've said no or we've regulated our way out of it. And they're going to be able to get rights.
So in other words, the Gulf.
They could
They'll
do
go
the
to the Gulf. They'll do Alaska.
offshore. They could do Alaska.